What if the silence you've been interpreting as God's absence is actually the sound of Him working at a level too deep for you to detect right now? I know that sounds like something people say to survive a hard chapter, like a gentle reframe designed to make unanswered prayer feel less like unanswered prayer. But here's what I want you to actually consider. The most significant work God has ever done in human lives was almost never visible while it was happening. The tomb looked like an ending. The wilderness looked like abandonment. The pit looked like the finish line. And yet in every single one of those places, something was being built that could not have been built any other way. So if your life right now feels like nothing is moving, like your prayers are hitting the ceiling and falling back down, like God is either distracted or uninterested, I want to give you 5 specific, quiet ways He is almost certainly working in your life right now, not in spite of the silence. Inside it, here's the first quiet way. He is protecting you from things you will never know about. And I mean that in a very specific, non-abstract way. Think about the decisions you've made, quickly, without full information, sometimes almost randomly, that turned out to be the only right ones. The job you didn't take. The relationship that didn't start. The city you almost moved to. At the time, those felt like closed doors, missed opportunities, timing that didn't work out. But here's what I want you to sit with. You don't know what was on the other side of those doors. You never got the information that would have confirmed the protection. Psalm 91:11 says, "He will command His angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." That guarding is not always dramatic. Most of the time, it is invisible. It looks like a deal falling through, a flight you missed, a friendship that quietly dissolved before it could cost you something you weren't ready to lose. The protection of God is working constantly in your life, and its defining characteristic is that you almost never see it clearly until you're far enough away to look back. If something in this is already shifting something for you, hit subscribe. We go into this territory every single week, and I think you need to be in that conversation. Here's the second quiet way. He is redirecting you through the very things that feel like failure. Here's what I mean by that. Romans 8:28 is not a bumper sticker. It is a claim about the architecture of how God actually operates. And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love Him. All things. Not the comfortable things, not the successful things, all things, including the application that was rejected, the plan that collapsed, the version of your future you had mapped out in detail and then watched dissolve. The closed doors were not God forgetting you, they were God rerouting you. And the reason that's hard to see in the moment is that rerouting looks identical to failure from the inside. You don't get a notification that says, "This didn't work out because something better is being prepared." You just get the silence. And in that silence, God is moving you. Sometimes inch by inch, sometimes in ways you won't understand for years, towards something the open door never could have led you to. The third quiet way is one of the most personal. He is placing and removing specific people from your life with a precision you are probably underestimating. Think about the people who have come into your life at exactly the right moment. The conversation that happened when it did. The person who said the thing you needed to hear without knowing you needed to hear it. And think about the people who left. The relationships that ended. The friendships that faded. The connections that dissolved in ways that hurt more than you expected. Proverbs 27:17 says, "As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another." But here's the thing about iron sharpening iron. It is not a gentle process. Some of the most formative people in your story were the ones whose leaving shaped you more than their staying ever could have. God is not random about the people in your life. He is intentional about who comes, intentional about who goes, and deeply intentional about the timing of both. The fourth quiet way, and this is the one I want you to sit with most carefully. He is healing things inside you that you haven't consciously noticed closing. There are wounds in most people's lives that never get formally addressed. Old rejections, old failures, old versions of yourself that you're still carrying shame about. And those wounds don't announce their healing any more than they announce their arrival. They just quietly, gradually stop bleeding. You realize one day that a conversation that would have devastated you 6 months ago rolls off you differently now, that a fear that used to run your decisions has lost some of its grip, that you can talk about something that used to be unspeakable with something approaching peace. Isaiah 61:3 talks about a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. That exchange doesn't happen in a single moment. It happens slowly, invisibly, over seasons that look from the outside like nothing in particular. The healing God is doing in you right now may be the quietest thing He's ever done, and the most permanent. The fifth quiet way is the most interior of all, and honestly, the one that took me longest to recognize in my own life. He is slowly, quietly reshaping what you want. And I don't mean that in a way that makes you less yourself. I mean it in a way that makes you more fully who you were actually made to be. Psalm 37:4 says, "He will give you the desires of your heart." But read what comes before that. Delight yourself in the Lord. The closer you move toward God, the more your desires begin to align with His. The things that used to feel essential start to feel smaller. The things you once dismissed as too simple, too quiet, too far from what you thought you wanted, start to feel like exactly what you were made for. That shift doesn't happen because you forced it. You don't manufacture it through discipline or willpower. It happens because God is working in the invisible interior of your life, gently, consistently, with a precision that your conscious mind is almost entirely unaware of. And one day you look up and realize you want different things than you used to, better things, truer things, and you can't fully explain how you got there. Here's what I want to leave you with. God's most significant work in a human life almost never looks significant while it's happening. It looks like a delay. It looks like silence. It looks like a door that won't open, a wound that won't stop aching, a season that won't end. But Jeremiah 29:11 is not a verse for people whose lives are going well. It is a verse written to people in exile, people who had lost everything visible. And it says, "I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." He knows, even in the silence, even in the invisible, even in the season that has felt the longest and the most empty and the most like being forgotten. You are not forgotten. You are not unseen. And the quiet in your life right now is not the absence of God. It may be the most active He has ever been. Before we close, drop one word in the comments. Just one word for the area of your life where you most need to trust that God is working right now, even if you can't see it. You don't have to explain it. Just one word. Someone else reading it tonight might need to know they're not the only one trusting in the dark.